Today's guest is a guy who started renting cars on Turo before he could even drive.
I didn't even have a car to meet people, so I'd either pay someone who was like in an older grade at school to like drive me to meet with people, or I'd ride my bike or get my parents to drive me.
At just 23, he's already tried every side hustle you've ever heard of and documented it for a YouTube subscriber base of nearly 300,000 people and still growing.
I've tested all sorts of different side hustles. I've had tons of different eras on my channel.
Unlike other gurus out there who hide their true profit, he breaks down what running a Turo fleet actually costs down to the penny.
Every time I have any sort of expense, I always like put it in my spreadsheet. So if you know your numbers, that's like really how you're able to scale.
He's seen other Turo hosts lose everything chasing the wrong things.
And the Ferrari was totaled or something. It ended up being like he lost like 100,000 plus.
His goal was never to get rich quick. It was something else.
Having money equals freedom. Like if I can make $3,000 to $5,000 a month doing my own business, have a basic life and not have anyone tell me what to do. So
today, he's breaking down everything you need to know about being a Turo host so you can decide for yourself if this is a great opportunity or just a big waste of time. Welcome to the conversation where we uncover real paths everyday people can use to escape the 9-to-5 and build a life of freedom. Today, we have Will, aka the Financial Wolf. He's a YouTuber who has tried many side hustles and now manages a small Turo fleet. Will, great to have you.
thanks for having me on. I'm excited.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. So first of all, you've gotten into doing things on YouTube. You've studied many side hustles, and now you're working on a Turo fleet. So what's the path you've gone down, and how did you get here?
So I started, first of all, it depends how far back you want to go, but I started like making YouTube videos in high school. So when I was about like 14, 15 years old, I had a small business where I would buy and sell electronics, and I started making videos about it, teaching like other teenagers or young people how to make money on the side. And then over the years, that's kind of progressed to where on YouTube, I've tested all sorts of different side hustles. I've had tons of different eras on my channel. And at this era now, I'm doing Turo cars. I'm trying to scale that up. And I actually started Turo all the way back in 2021, quit in like 2023, and then I got back into it in last year in November. So it's been a journey. I've had like my ups and downs with Turo, and I've learned a lot for sure.
And how old are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 23, so I've been doing this for like 8 years.
8 years, okay. And you started when you were in high school selling electronics?
Yeah, so I would post ads on like Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace saying, "Oh, I'll pay cash for your new used or cracked Apple product." And then when people would like reach out to me, I would look on eBay and like kind of get a market for it, knowing what I could sell it for. And I'd offer people like $50 to $100 less than I knew I could sell it for. And when I started, I didn't even have a car to meet people. So I'd either pay someone who was like in an older grade at school to like drive me to meet with people, or I'd ride my bike or get my parents to drive me. So it was like definitely a grind.
So one thing that I've seen as a pattern with people that I've spoken to is that at a very young age, they just have a knack for how money works and a desire to make money. And that's as opposed to some people who just want to go through the path of, I go to high school, then I go to college, then I get a job, and I work my way up. The people who are the ones who are outstanding are the ones who have an entrepreneurial knack. And that could be a very small thing, just like selling electronics or starting a Turo fleet, or it could be a very big thing. But it usually starts with people trying to make their first $10,000 a month before trying to make their first $1 million. And I think that you started with a very practical business, and you started very small, and you've just built over years to where you are today.
No, 100%. Yeah, I feel like that's definitely a big case with people. It's like either people who like end up like building a business, they always like tend to get into it like very early. Like they just tend to have some sort of attraction to it. And I think for me, like I just kind of realized that like having money equals freedom. Like you don't really have to listen to anyone if you are able to make your own money, and you can live the life that you want to if you are able to achieve that. So that was always my goal. If I can make $3,000 to $5,000 a month doing my own business, that is at minimum, that's what I want. Because then I don't need to have a job. I can have a basic life and not have anyone tell me what to do. So that was kind of my goal with it.
I mean, I love that you said freedom, because I found after having worked up to a certain point when I had a decent amount of money, I kind of was sitting there contemplating life about purpose. And I thought, okay, I need to have a purpose in my life. And I thought everyone wanted to have a purpose in their life. And then I started touching grass and actually talking to people. What I realized is people don't really care about purpose until they first have freedom. And so the thing that's most important to people is, how can I build freedom? I don't want to have a boss. I want to be able to travel. I can figure out purpose later, but what the hell can I do? Is it managing Turo cars? Is it drop shipping? Is it doing something else? How can I build freedom in my life? And that's what people really care about.
100%. Yeah. No, that's a good point.
So you've studied so many ways to make money. I'm really curious. You did Turo, you left Turo, you came back to Turo. Why Turo?
I really, what really attracts me to it is my day job for the most part is like YouTube. Like I spend a lot of time editing videos, making content, and I needed something that was like more passive. And Turo isn't 100% passive for sure. You're managing cars, you're cleaning them. But what really attracted me to it is, while the car's rented for like a week, 2 weeks, 10 days, whatever it is, it's making money while I'm not actively, working on the business. So I enjoyed the aspect of, I got to get the car clean, make sure it's well maintained. But other than that, when the car's not here, it's making me money and I don't have to actively do anything. I'm not doing a service or mowing someone's lawn for money. I'm not flipping a phone. I'm just generating like passive income from something that I bought and I'm leasing it to someone else. So like even a business like renting out like ski gear or something like that has always been attractive to me, because it's like, I'm just lending someone something, they're paying me money and I'm getting a return without necessarily working super active into it. And in the future, I also want to like do like real estate stuff, because I'm like, that seems like something else. And on top of like Turo, where, the car depreciates, with real estate, like the house appreciates. So that's just kind of why.
So you're optimizing for freedom, which
Yeah.
is, I want to be able to make passive income.
Yes.
All right, that's super interesting. And how you landed on Turo, that's really cool. So we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. But first, can we talk about things that people really care about, which is earnings? And this is something that I know you are very meticulous about documenting, better than anyone else I've ever seen online.
Yeah, I try to, like, every time I have any sort of expense, I always like put it in my spreadsheet. And if on any trip revenue, I just enjoy like looking at all the numbers, because it's the way that you're going to be able to scale a Turo fleet successfully is to know like what cars are most profitable for you, what kind of like cars you want to target. Because if I was just renting cars out and looking at revenue figures, I probably would have bought more expensive cars than I needed to, or going forward, I might overspend on things. So if you know your numbers, that's like really how you're able to scale, because scaling an unprofitable business is like the last thing you want to do.
Yeah, and one thing that really jumps out to me about how you handle things is you truly do everything yourself. And that maximizes your profit, but also takes a lot of effort. And we'll talk about it a little bit more when we talk about flexibility and freedom and things like that. And something else I want to point out is that you see this kind of as a gateway into broader asset management and things like real estate. So you're dealing with buying assets, making money from them, and eventually potentially reselling them. You deal with depreciation, appreciation, kind of all of those net worth calculations. And is this kind of a practice run for you to get into real estate?
A little bit. I mean, I kind of see it as like a little bit of a gateway, because with Turo, you can buy a car for $5,000 to $7,000. With real estate, you're going to need a little bit more money. I actually did end up buying one house, which I just live in, and I like rent out a room. But I want to get more into it in the future. But the plan is like I want to scale up to like 10 Turo cars, build that business up to making like 10,000 a month in revenue, and then maybe transition to like real estate or some other things.
So you want to build up to 10,000 in revenue. Let's talk about what you're doing today. If you don't mind me asking, how much do you make in revenue today, and how much of that do you actually take home?
Yeah. So in booking revenue on the 4 cars, it's been about $3,500 a month. Last month, including a damage claim, it was like 6,700. That's why in one of my YouTube titles it says that 4 cars made 6,700 bucks, because that includes some money I made from like a damage claim. But revenue is about $3,500 a month. I have a car payment on one of the vehicles, which is $500 per month. The other vehicles don't. Then I have insurance, which is like $400 a month for all the cars. Then I've got like Ubers, parking at the airport, other expenses like oil changes, maintenance. And that brought me down to last month. The fleet made an operating profit of 1,300. Actually, no, it was a little bit more last month. I think it was, sorry, I'm looking at the numbers here. It was a little over 2,000 bucks last month, like $2,400.
Okay. And would you say that I mean, you've been doing this for years now. Is that a typical range someone should expect to make? How much do you make with one car? How much would someone make if they do it kind of on the side with one car? And then what is typical for someone to make if they take it seriously?
Yeah. So the thing is, it really depends on the type of car that you're purchasing because I've made some, let's say, mistakes, or I bought cars that probably weren't as good to buy for Turo. Like my first Turo car that I ever bought was the strategy was I'm going to buy something as cheap as possible. And I bought a car for like 4,800 bucks. It was a 2013 Ford Fiesta with like 125,000 miles. So right under Turo's requirements. And the funny thing is I had a bad experience with that car, and it kind of strayed me away from like my initial plan. So I bought the car, and 2 days later the radiator blew. So it had like a huge repair because I was an idiot and I didn't like check anything on the car. The car even had a check engine light on it, and I like used a reader to check it, and like the reader said like a code that it needed a new catalytic converter. But like for some reason when I was googling it, I was like, oh, this is probably not too big of a deal. Little did I know that's like a $2,000 repair. So I ended up spending like thousands of dollars fixing that car, and it was like almost more than the revenue in the beginning. So that car started out with like a huge loss. Eventually I kind of recovered some money renting it out, and I sold it, and I bought a the next car I purchased was a 2013 Honda CRV, which that was a really good car for Turo. But later on, I made some mistakes buying like newer vehicles, which I long term it's going to be interesting to see like how those do. But in a month, like my newer vehicles are only making like a few $100, especially the one that I have a car payment on. It's profiting like $300 after expenses, nothing too crazy. Whereas I bought a car for $5,500 recently, and it's been making like $500 to $700 a month in profit. So you can see that it really depends on the type of Turo car you buy, and it seems that the cheaper vehicles get a similar daily rate to like a brand new car. So I've kind of found that that might be the strategy going forward, where I'm buying these cars that are more reliable, like a Toyota Corolla, even like a Volkswagen Jetta or something that's basic, that's used, that that's not like a Ford Fiesta that has all sorts of reliability problems. Like historically, people have put on the KBB all the time about those cars that they have issues. So I've kind of learned there. But if you buy the right car for like $5,000 to $7,000, you can expect about $500 per month in profit.
Okay, so $500 to $700, I think you said, for like one car that has decent margins and is reliable and doesn't depreciate too much.
Yes.
Okay, and then how hard is it to build a fleet and manage one?
Not too hard. I would say for like per car, I'm spending like an hour a week, like really not that much, because cleaning literally takes me like 20 minutes. Like most people, all I need to do is just vacuum the floors, maybe wipe down like the console with some wet wipes, and like the center console area and stuff. But it takes me like 20 minutes to clean. The cars go on like 2 trips per week on average, since my average trip is like 3 to 4 days. And then once in a while, I drop off the car for maintenance, and literally it's 2 miles away from my house. So I'll just drive the car there, go for a walk with my dog back, and then just pick up the car. Yeah, so it's
You
been
think
pretty
like
good.
$500 to $700 a month per car, and then just scale up the number of cars that you have if you do it right?
Yeah. Like I think if I get up to 10 cars, realistically, I'd maybe be spending probably a little bit more than an hour a week per car. Let's say 20 hours a week per car.
Mhm.
I need to keep track more of the hours I'm putting in on top of the profit. I think that would be definitely helpful.
I think it'd be great content
Exactly.
because you are so meticulous about how you track these numbers. And if you add time on top of it, I was really curious about it because it seems like it could be a lot of work. You take the pictures, you do the
Yeah.
dealing with the customers. And on that episode that you had where the customer damaged the car, you had a lot of interfacing back and forth.
Yeah.
Oh, and the question is, right, how common is this? How commonly do you have to interface with the customer with Turo? How much maintenance do you have to do, and how much is cleaning? So
Yeah.
we'll get into that when we talk about flexibility, but I'm really curious for you to actually document that.
Yeah, no, I definitely should keep more track of the hours I put in. And thinking about it now, I probably put in more hours than I think than I do with Turo. Because a lot of times my mornings start with like cleaning cars. Guests are like texting me questions. I'm like trying to figure out stuff. I'm on call with like Turo support, which is the worst. It's like outsourced to India or something, or like one of those like countries where, English is like a second language there. And
Yeah.
it's just It's the worst. It's a lot of pain sometimes.
Okay, well, we'll talk about it more in a minute, but in terms of income, how stable is it from one week to the next, one month to the next? Is there seasonality? Is it really hit or miss, or is it pretty stable?
It really depends on your market. In areas like Colorado or, Arizona, you'll see a lot of seasonality. Like Colorado, I actually had a co-hosting fleet there at one point, and in the winter, cars just rent like crazy, especially like four-wheel drive Subarus. Because people are going up to the mountains for the weekend. They'll pay like over like $100 a day for a Subaru, which is insane. Like we had a Subaru on that fleet that was making like $2,500 a month in revenue. Like being booked out in Colorado. So, and then in the summer months, it'll be more like $1,000. Whereas if you're in a market like mine, I live in the Midwest, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. People aren't really coming here seasonally. They're coming here when they need to for work. They're coming here to visit family on the holidays, and the cars are mostly booked up. Like my utilization rate is about 70 to like 90%. Pretty much anytime I want to rent a car out, I can. Just the cars are sometimes off when I have to fix something. So yeah, it's pretty consistent in my market, but it depends on where you live. Because in some areas you're gonna make crazy money some months and not a lot the others.
Okay, so pretty much generally consistent,
Yeah.
depending on if you have specific weather events like ice and people need a four-wheel drive car, you could have some seasonality around it.
Yeah.
And you said co-hosting fleet? What is that?
So in 2022, we were doing like a business. I had like some partners on it, but basically people could buy a Turo car and then have it hosted. So we're not the owners of the car. It's just managed by like our company basically. So like we had like a few detailers and stuff, but how it worked is the client would buy the car, we would take it under management, get everything sorted, send them payouts every month, and we would take 30% of the revenue and they would get 70%.
Are you still doing that?
No.
And why not?
I left that business because first of all, the co-host company that I was working with ended up out like taking the cars and putting them on another co-hosting company because my the guy I was working with didn't want to manage cars anymore. He just kind of got overwhelmed with the 50 cars, and we also bought a lot of those cars from auction, and some of them had issues, and it was a huge headache. So I ended up I just left that business, but we're still friends, and we made sure the clients were in good hands. But they're with a different co-host now. He didn't want to manage cars anymore, so I was like, I don't really want to keep doing it then.
Uh, yeah, it's really interesting how sometimes you try to get into a different version of a business and it just becomes too complex and you have too many people involved and then you revert back to the more simple one.
Yeah. I was like, instead of having 50 cars that I'm getting 30% revenue on, how would I get 100% of the revenue and own the cars myself? So that was kind of the goal with it going into it again. Um, Co-hosting is good. I just think it's just, you're making a couple $100 a month because realistically, if you're managing someone's car, you're going to get like 350 a month for just doing all the work. And I'd rather like have the opportunity to make more money for my time. And I wasn't the one like cleaning the cars. I was doing like the
That helps.
client finding, like I was getting the people to sign up. And we got to a point where we had like we were just telling people like we can't take on any more cars. This
Ah,
won't work.
that's a good point. It leads right into my next question, which is how scalable is this business model? I mean, you're making a certain amount right now, but you want to scale up to 10,000 a month. How scalable could it be?
I think it's pretty scalable. I actually know someone who's built a fleet and they're making 40,000 a month and they have two employees. So they have two people who help them, one who does like most of the cleaning work and like prep work between trips, and then the other one is a mechanic. And she has like absolutely crushed it. She scaled her fleet to like 40,000 a month. Her name's Aubrey Janique. So I've kind of like been watching some of her videos, learning about her method. And the thing that I think gives her an advantage is her husband is like the mechanic and he's very inclined in that. Like he knows all about like fixing cars and stuff. And so like I want to like learn more about that. And I think that would help with profitability. And in terms of like time and scalability, I think if I got to 10,000 a month, I wouldn't have to pay a cleaner too much money. Like I would probably outsource a little bit, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see. But yeah, that's something
Well,
I really need to learn with business.
what is that?
I don't claim to be an expert.
What is it that you want to learn exactly? Is it how to
It's
manage people?
like how to look at like scaling and like I have my numbers, but sometimes it's like I don't know how it would look if I got to 10 cars. Like I'll have to wait and see pretty much, I feel like.
I will say my impression from watching your content and talking to you is that you do put a lot of effort to things, which is amazing.
Uh-huh.
But the way that you do it, I wonder if you approach it from a way that could scale.
Yeah.
I mean, your videos, you're doing all the editing yourself. And I know very little about content. I'm very new to this. You're much more experienced than I am. But the one piece of advice that I've heard from multiple people is outsource your editing. That way you can focus on creation as opposed to the editing. And I imagine it's probably pretty difficult when you have such an incredibly high standard and you know your stuff so well. That's like if I outsource it, it's someone else dealing with it, and it's probably never going to be as good as you do it. But I do think that there could be some benefit on the time front from getting someone on board and taking the time to train them up.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. And I feel like that's even like affected my YouTube because like sometimes I don't post because I'm like trying to work on another video. So
Yeah.
people sometimes would rather see more content from me than just really good videos. But yeah, I think that's something I need to learn a little bit because I try to get people to edit and then I just get mad that it's not right. But it,
Well, you're a spreadsheet guy, so maybe you just work out the math. If you
yeah.
paid money to have someone to do something that then freed up your time, how would you spend that time and would it ROI? And then you can determine, is this something that's actually worth me doing?
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely.
Yeah, that would be my advice to you in terms of scalability. So, in terms of hiring out and scalability, is this something that you could make entirely passive? I know that you said you spend maybe an hour a week. Maybe we don't document everything. It's probably more than that when you deal with customers and whatnot. But is this something that if you hired a cleaner and you had kind of fleet management that you could make completely passive?
Um, Maybe not completely in terms of the messaging and like back end stuff like finances, but I do know some hosts like this one host that I know that does about like 40,000 a month in revenue. She does nothing in terms of like the daily like cleaning and car work, but obviously her husband is active in the business. So like maybe that's part of it. But yeah, I think you probably could get it down to like a very passive side hustle, but in terms of like you doing almost nothing, I don't think so, no. Because I think the margins with Turo, um, like if you were doing private rental, which I know some hosts eventually transition to, that's like a big thing with Turo is a lot of hosts use Turo as like a gateway to being able to rent out cars privately. And that's where you can make like double the daily booking rate because Turo takes kind of a hefty fee. And if you can kind of up your margins in that sense and get the proper insurance, that's where you could probably open up some margins to like outsource. And that's something I definitely want to look into.
So car renting on Turo takes pretty hefty fee. What is it, like 10 to 40% or something like that?
So they take so I'm on like they have multiple insurance plans. So
Right.
I'm on the 80/20 plan, which means I have a $750 deductible in the event that the guest like crashes my car. You can choose an option that's 10% where you have a higher deductible of like 2,500 bucks, or you can choose an option where they take 40%, which you have a $0 deductible. Never do the 40, 60, 40. I think that's a terrible plan if you're doing Turo. Um, but yeah, so they also on top of that charge the guest a trip fee, which is like almost the same as the daily rate. So they're pretty much getting like 50% of what the bookings or what the guest is paying.
Yeah, so Turo is making pretty good money. So you think
Yeah.
there's an opportunity for people to move off of Turo and still get business?
Yeah, because I think it's pretty expensive for guests at this point. Like Turo was, relatively cheap maybe when it was first coming out, but now it's like almost comparable to the price of renting from Enterprise or Hertz. And sure, there's benefits of renting from Turo because the car can be delivered like straight to your house, or there's more flexibility with certain things and the types of cars you can rent. But I think at the end of the day, a lot of guests, especially local renters, which is a pretty big percentage of my customer base, just want the cheapest car possible. They just want something that they can use for a weekend and not have to worry. And they just don't want to spend a lot of money. So I think there's definitely an opportunity in terms of like private rentals.
Yeah. And Is this something that you could do from anywhere? I mean, obviously you have to physically deliver cars, you have to clean cars. If you hired out, could you just manage this remotely? Like that woman that you talk about who's managing 40 cars, is it? Or doing 40,000 a month?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Is that something that she's created a system that she can just travel the world and live in La La Land and just manage the people below her? Or does she have to be physically involved?
Uh, in her specific case, I think she kind of does it a little bit differently. She does kind of like plan ahead if she's going to be out, like she's making sure that the cars are taken care of. I think she's still somewhat active in the business. But if you want something like that, people usually will find like a co-host where they're like, buying the car and then they put it on with someone. They'll take anywhere from like 25 to 30% of the revenue. So that's kind of where you would get into something that would be a little bit more passive. There's like a ton of co-hosting companies that you can use, and that's probably what would be your best bet. But if you build your own system, you can make it even more profitable than 25%, I'm sure.
Yeah. So co-hosting is kind of a different system than just pure renting because you are buying a car and then you do way less work, but you make way less money per car. So it's a trade-off.
Yeah, no, with co-hosting, it's like someone else is buying the car. So what I meant by making it fully passive would just be like buying a Turo car and putting it on with a different host, and then they get a percentage of the revenue.
Right.
You just get a lower percentage of the profit. So with
Right.
co-renting,
So
you're
there's kind of
less
two
work.
avenues on the co-hosting. There's the you buy the car and give it to a co-host, which
Yeah.
is less work, less profit. And then there's being the co-host where you put less money up front, but you do a lot more work.
Yep. Yes.
Okay. So there's like this
Exactly.
whole network world of how can you make money with renting cars? Rent it yourself, give it to a co-host, or manage a fleet for other people. Or you could just manage your own fleet over time, which is what I think you're trying to do, which is the best of both worlds.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And are you planning on taking your fleet off of Turo?
Eventually, so here's the thing about Turo. It's really weird. They kind of make it difficult for you to be like both a private renter and a Turo renter. So
Yeah.
what Aubrey did, she kind of has a private rental fleet and a Turo fleet, but she has cars that are just for Turo, and then she has cars that are just for a private rental company. So what I'm thinking is I want to get to like 10 cars on Turo, and then maybe start doing private rentals. And if that goes well, I'll probably start taking some cars off Turo. But the thing about it is you can't rent privately and on Turo at the same time. It's like against the policy. And I know people are going to say, how are they going to find out? But if they do, you're banned. So it's like, I don't know. Do you really want to risk that? And they have like a policy where you can't like rent it on like multiple platforms at the same time. So that's kind of the thing. But the cool thing is if you do private rentals, they don't require you to like, have a car that's 12 years or newer. You could rent a car that's a 2010 that's still reliable, it's even cheaper, and there's more benefits and flexibility to that, but you have to do your own marketing.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest trade-off is you have to get your own customers. The benefit of Turo is they provide the marketing, they provide the traffic, and probably some element of insurance as well. But you could argue that's not a benefit because they overcharge for it, and that's where they make all their margins.
Yeah, so it's really interesting, but the thing about Turo as well is I think the marketing aspect is kind of easy because I feel like when people are going to look up like
This is the guy with
car near me.
300,000 YouTube subscribers.
Well, no, that yeah, I guess maybe that would help, but I don't know if that would necessarily help in the Milwaukee
I
market.
just mean I think that you're good at it. Like this
Yeah.
is something that you've been doing for a long time. It's
Yeah.
like any muscle, you train it and then it gets more easy over time the more that you do it. And you've been flexing that marketing muscle for many, many years now.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's also it, but I don't know. There's just people are going to want to rent a car. So you just put a little Google listing up, make a website. Because I have like a vending machine business too. And people will call me all the time just from a Google listing. It's like, dude, if I had a rental car business, it's probably do well.
So why do you want to build up to 10 cars before transitioning off? Why not just do it?
Do it now?
What are we
Well,
waiting for?
I don't know. I don't know. But the thing about it is the thing that I've kind of not wanted to do private rentals yet is they have like specific insurance that you need, and sometimes you need like a certain number of cars. So we'll have to kind of regroup in a bit. Like I might need a little bit more cars before I can get like that fleet insurance because with like I have insurance for like the when it's not on Turo, like off trip, and then I have insurance for when it's like rented out through Turo. So I
I
always have the insurance for when the client is renting it privately. And I also would have to deal with, you have to put a different type of tracker if you rent it like privately, like a kill switch one where the car will like fully turn off, like if they like steal it or something. Whereas with Turo, I just have like a normal bouncy tracker because worst case, if they steal it, I'm not as worried because Turo is a little bit more liable. Whereas if I'm doing it privately, I feel like there just might be a bit more risk. I've heard a few things, but I just haven't gotten to that point yet. But I definitely want to.
Yeah, I'm really curious, and maybe this could be content for you,
Hmm.
breaking down working with Turo versus going private, and then what the path going private looks like, and what the margins look like. Because there's probably some upfront work, upfront capital, getting insurance. There's probably some insider knowledge, a lot of research that you have to do. And if you knew exactly the trade-off, what is the path, then it becomes a lot more clear. What do I do and when am I ready? And it seems like you're just kind of kicking the can right now to say, I don't think I'm ready yet. I know there's a bunch of stuff to do and I kind of know what it is, but I've never really dug in deep enough to know what exactly I need to do to get there. Maybe you're getting to a point where it's time, because if it's a more straightforward and shorter path than you thought, and you could have done it 2 years before, all that money that you gave up in profit that you could have been making for 2 years is just down the drain. It's
Yeah.
opportunity cost. So I think that what you should do, and as a goal-oriented person, know where you are, where you want to be, and how to get from A to B as quickly as possible so you can work directly toward it and then start making that money instead of just kind of giving 50% of your earnings to Turo.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Definitely something I should do.
I think that you'd be great at, first of all, researching it. Second of all, documenting and making a spreadsheet and figuring out what the path looks like. And third of all, making content that could give other people a path to do it as well. Because
Mhm.
I think, when people hear $500, $700 per car and you got to buy these cars for thousands of dollars up front, and yeah, it does take some work, they might think maybe this isn't worth it for me to build freedom in my life. Let me just go try doing something else. But I think that if you have a very straightforward path to this, truly building a business that other people, you have to have the margins to
Yeah.
have other people managing it. So if you want freedom and you want to step away and you want to build something scalable where you're not vacuuming every car, because even if you are vacuuming every car, you can't scale if you do every car. What if two cars come back at the same time and want to be rented at the same time? It kind of limits your scalability. So to have the ability to scale, you have to hire, and to hire, you need margins. And so to have margins, you probably have to have a private fleet, and to have a private fleet, how do you get there? And so I think that'd be really, really interesting to figure out, how do you build a real business out of this?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think the way like Turo's designed is more meant for like people to like rent out their own car.
Yeah.
And I've seen people really scale up on Turo, but a lot of them have transitioned to private. Like I did a video with this guy. He had like probably about 200 cars like on Turo, and he did privates too.
Mhm.
And he was telling me like he eventually transitioned to only doing private, but I mean he seemed to be doing well. He eventually actually got banned off Turo, um but yeah, he was like kind of showing me inside his fleet, but he was like at a very big scale to where he had like multiple like full-time employees. He had like a whole office space and stuff. So like I yeah, he wasn't like willing to. I wish people when you like film videos with them are more open to share their numbers, because like you film videos with people like this and sometimes you don't know how much money they're actually making. They're only really willing to share the revenue figures, and
Yeah.
I kind of see that a lot.
Well, this is one thing that I really dig into, because especially in the world of kind of e-commerce and whatnot, people say, I made this much money. It's like, okay, how much was profit? And they might say, I have a really high ROAS.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what's your profit? How much do you make? How much do you take home? And a lot of people, and this is the problem I'm trying to solve, is people rely on these big top line numbers, or falsified top line numbers even, in order to sell the dream. And then on the back of that, sell a course. So I'm trying to really get to the bottom of what is real. How can we prove what's real? Talk to people like you, because you're so incredibly transparent. I know that if I'm talking to you, I can get good information. I've watched your videos, I've watched your content. It's killer. It's good. It's transparent. And you go above and beyond. I think most people, when they're documenting their profit, they're not going to account for depreciation. You ding yourself in ways that you could probably sweep under the rug without most people noticing. So you're
Yeah.
incredibly transparent. That's what I love about what you do. And I'm trying to bring transparency to the whole industry of the whole make money space.
Yeah, no, that's definitely important. And depreciation is something that like people were commenting on my video. And I was like trying to calculate it. And that's when I also realized that the cheaper cars is a huge advantage because like if you buy a new car, they depreciate pretty fast. And like I think after depreciation in October, it was like $650 profit. So like I made like 2,000 in operating profit. Most people would say 2,000, but then you look at the numbers. I had a brand new car that I purchased that once, so like that depreciated quite a bit, and that brought me down to like $650 in profit. So I was like, oh, that's not great. But then I looked at the numbers for my cheapest car. I was like, oh, it made $500 after depreciation, after
Yeah.
everything. So I'm like, oh, if I got more of those, that would be good. So that's kind of the plan going forward. If I can get, a couple more of those, then kind of like see where I'm at, I think the fleet will be in a better position. And obviously, the argument on the depreciation front with like new cars too on Turo is they should hypothetically last longer. So hopefully I could rent it out until 150,000 miles. But rental cars also do sometimes get more, wear and tear on them than a traditional vehicle. So the question is, which I'm excited, it's kind of an experiment. How long are these new cars that I bought actually going to last me? Is it
Yeah.
profitable?
Yeah. I could see why people would say depreciation, I don't care, because my cash profit at the end of the day is what they probably care about when they're doing this thing. It's like, all right, well, how much money is it making me? And you only realize the depreciation upon a sale. So are you planning on reselling these cars?
Yeah, you realize the depreciation on a sale or if the car gets totaled too. So like you get paid out on insurance and then it's like, oof, I took a fat loss, especially if you have a loan on the vehicle. So like that's another front of that. Do I plan to sell the cars? Probably not. I mean, probably yes at some point, but once they're like heavily depreciated.
Yeah.
I'll probably sell the Passat when it's at, around 200,000 miles. That's probably my goal to like get the cars to. I really want to like squeeze as much life as I can out of them.
I love that about you too, because you are kind of the down to earth, everyday, track your profit guy. And so this is something that people who don't have a lot of funds, but they do have a car, they can look at your content and figure out what is realistic for me. There's nothing hidden at all. And how can I use this to build it into a business? So like you've been buying inexpensive cars and you've been buying them cash. So the question is like, okay, if I am making $500 to $700 a month and I do that for, I don't know, a year, I actually have enough money to buy another profitable car because I'm not going to be losing money on depreciation. So it's really interesting the way that you're going about it. You're kind of like the everyday man as opposed to these people who are shooting for like, how can I get as rich as possible, as quick as possible with as little work as possible and sell the dream. You're a very down to earth, nitty gritty, work hard, build systems in a way that is doable for everyday people kind of guy.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I try, I don't know. I think for me, it's like the way to get to, yeah, I don't know. I just always felt like it was unrealistic to go from like zero to like a million a year doing no work from like one. I don't know. I just always felt like for me, it's easier to see how to make 5,000 a month than to make like a million a year. And I feel like most people are probably like that. Maybe it limits me in some way, but I think, I don't know. It's hard for me to like, I don't, yeah.
So are you familiar? You're a spreadsheet guy with the expected return calculation.
Mhm. In terms of what?
So expected return is how much money do I want to make multiplied by what is the probability that I make it. And a lot of people shoot for I want to make $5 gazillion, but I have 0.00001% chance of getting it. You're like, I want to reliably make $5,000 a month with a very high probability of success. And so the expected return from someone doing a moonshot for $1 gazillion versus you probably have a higher expected return than they do because they're just buying lottery tickets.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's true. And even if like you think of it like this, if you can build one $5,000 business, then do it again, it's like you got 10K a month then. Or if you learn from that, like it's easier to build off of that than to go from zero to like 100K.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So in terms of flexibility, how flexible are the hours? Obviously, the bookings come on the customer's schedule. So what does your schedule look like?
So you can change the calendar availability to like however you want it on Turo. So pretty much what I'll do, like when a car comes back from a trip, I just like clean it immediately. and then I'll put it at like 1 hour from now it's available, and then it can just be booked whenever. The cars have a lockbox on the window, and then I have automated messaging set up with the guests. So like a message gets sent out at the start of the trip, like, oh hey, please submit like your license photos, and then like at some point I'll go in and like make sure that the license photos are there. And then like another automated message an hour before the trip starts sends out, sending like the lockbox code and like the information regarding pickup. And then like towards the end of the reservation, it'll like tell you, okay, as this trip wraps up, just like here's some information upon return. So automated messaging helps a lot with like the timeline of things, because I don't need to be like catering my schedule around the guest. It's just sometimes I need to make sure that I'm there between, the trip ending and the next trip starting. So like this morning I was at my parents' house for Thanksgiving, and I had to get up at 8 because my car, or I had to leave by like 7:30, or I had to leave at 8, because the car had a trip at 9:30. So like I had to make sure that I could clean the car, take some photos of it before the rental. So yeah, you can kind of set your schedule however on Turo. I always set my like advanced, like when I'm busy and I like know that I'm going to be doing stuff and like a car's not rented, I'll set it to like 12-hour advance notice. Like they can't book for like 12 hours from now. But like a lot of times I just try to get the car cleaned right away so it can just be right on another rental.
And who handles the automated messages?
Oh, it's just like a bot, like through Turo. Like it just sends
I
out.
use Turo. So if you left Turo, you would have to figure that out.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't be too hard because there used to be a bunch of software. So like back in the day, there was a service called CarSync, and this was when Turo kind of allowed you to list cars on multiple platforms. And CarSync was a software that helped host manage between private rentals and Turo, and you could set up automated messaging through software. So there's like softwares you can use that already exist that like definitely help with that.
Okay, great. And in terms of passivity here and flexibility, you just list a car for specific hours and then people can just go pick it up at the lockbox at their convenience.
I just park it in front of my house. Like all
And
the cars are, yeah.
I think there's taking photos of the car, like some sort of preparation. Like when does that happen?
24 hours before the trip start, you have to take photos. So sometimes, like, if a car even doesn't have another booking, and I know, like, oh, it got back from a trip, let me clean it up. I just take photos right after I clean it. So I just attach those to the trip because it almost always gets a booking within 24 hours if I set the availability to 1 hour. Because in my area, almost no hosts tend to do that. It's kind of weird. Like, if you go on Turo and look for cars available in the next hour, there's usually like 3 options. So like it's actually a huge advantage for me. So like I'll just like take a bunch of pictures of the cars and like get photos right after I clean it. So I try to make it kind of like a system like that instead of me having to like, okay, I got a booking, let me quickly take some pictures. So yeah.
You have pretty flexible schedule overall,
Yeah.
and your timing is just based on when you want to clean the car. And is there anything else that is really determining your schedule?
Not really. I mean, sometimes you got to take the cars in for maintenance, which I'll kind of plan ahead. You got the oil change sticker. I'll look at that and kind of plan out ahead. Like I'll block off the car for a day that I plan to take it to the shop. And like even like this week, like tomorrow at 4:30, I have a car coming back. Sunday at 6 p.m., car coming back. Then next week, Tuesday, car comes back. Wednesday. So it's like one car a day pretty much with 4 vehicles on the fleet is coming back. Takes me like 30 minutes, I guess, to clean and take photos of the car and get it on the next trip.
And does it get dropped right back off at your house, or do you have to go
Mhm.
pick it up?
Yeah. Yeah, I gets dropped off at my house right away. I do free pickup obviously if you pick it up from my house, and then I charge $40 if you want it at the airport, which I get some people booking at the airport, but I live like 2 miles away. So like I try to make it expensive enough to where people are like, "Okay, I'll just Uber." Eventually, I don't know if I want to keep doing airport rentals. It's only 2 miles from my house, but like it is kind of you got to drop off the car at the lot and all that stuff.
Well, you do have the ability to have the flexibility to determine whether or not you want to do that, which is great. So at the end of the day, it really is
Mhm.
cleaning the car and dealing with customers. But for the most part, the customers are self-service. You have automated messages. They go pick up the car from your house. The car disappears. It just gets dropped right back off at your house. You take 20, 30 minutes to clean it, and then you just relist it.
Yeah, I've only met like 2 of the guests and I've had like 100 trips.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and even if I'm gone, I have a friend who like usually like when I'm like on a trip or something, I'll give him 25% of the revenue while I'm like gone. So like I have like my own co-host when I'm like on a trip or something. So the cars are still making money.
Well, that's really cool that that gives you the flexibility to travel and still get things done because you kind of have built that employee below you without having the obligation of managing a real employee. It's just a friend that makes extra cash. That's great.
Yes.
So how much did you invest to start?
So the first car I ever bought was 4,800 bucks. So that was how much I invested. And then I rented that car out for a while. I had to spend some money to get it fixed and all that. Eventually I bought another car, like probably about 6 months later for 11,000. And then I bought another car. This is like my first era doing Turo. And I think I put I the third car I bought was like around 20,000. So like I bought a newer car and then I sold all those cars and I ended up being profitable. And then I used that money to buy this house. So like the first time I invested probably around like 40 grand, like all in and around there. And then this time around I've invested around 40 grand for my 4 cars. Yeah.
So the first time around, you built up a fleet, milked it for cash, sold the fleet, used that money to buy a house. Now you've rebuilt another
Down
fleet.
payment on the house, but yeah.
Yeah, bought the house in cash.
Yeah.
And so now you've rebuilt a new fleet and it's about 40K. But so if I just want to start, I have my car. I could just use my car for no additional expense to my life.
Yeah. You can rent it out as long as it's 12 years or newer and 130,000 miles or less at the time you list it. So that's literally the only requirements.
Okay. And
And
do you think that
go ahead, sorry.
if I'm just doing this part-time, like it's my car, I use it daily, well, not daily, if I'm trying to rent it out, I'm willing to forego weekends or whatever it may be. I can make a little cash on the side, use that money to buy another car, and then start making money with that car. Is that like a feasible path for people?
Yeah, I mean, especially if you like work from home or like you work like only in office like 3 days a week, you could definitely do that. Because you can literally on the calendar block off like certain days, like okay, it can't be rented this day, can't be rented this day, can't be rented this day. Like you can obviously cater your schedule. You're gonna make less money, but that's not a bad plan to get into it. You could definitely make good money on the side depending how often you're renting the car out. And yeah, honestly, you could probably get a Turo car for if you're doing it really cheap. You could get one for probably 4 to 5 thousand. That's probably the baseline Turo car that you have to buy. So four to
Isn't
five
there
thousand bucks.
almost isn't there almost an advantage there? Because as you said, the people on Turo just want the cheapest option. And so then by getting the cheapest car with the least depreciation, the least expense, you kind of have the ability to rent it for the least and still make profit.
Yeah, no, that's it's true. There's like a lot of hosts that like I've talked to all sorts of hosts throughout the years. And like when I first got into it, I was listening to like Aubrey and she's like, buy cheap cars, like those are the best for Turo. And then I was talking to other people, and a lot of them aren't around anymore, actually. There's a lot of Turo hosts that they aren't around anymore. They financed a bunch of cars at once and they got themselves into some trouble, especially like at the peak of the car market. A lot of them were buying like cars that are now worth so much less money and they got themselves into trouble. So I was hearing from like a lot of different people, like benefits of a new car. Oh, it'll last longer. It won't have issues. You're going to get bad reviews if your cars are, older, which, there's a risk of that. If you have an older car, there could be some issues. People will leave worse reviews. But as a whole, if you have good customer service and you make sure the cars are well maintained, definitely the strategy I found from my experience, I think that's the move.
And you're saying the people that have the newer cars, they actually went under, and you think
Yeah.
I
I
have
know
to
a
make
few people
depreciation?
like I know a few people who used to do Turo, and I talked to this one guy. He's like, yeah, I financed 12 Nissan Altimas like at once, like 0% down, and like rent them all on Turo. Like some of those people, like just they ended up like over time, those cars have mechanical issues. The first 2 years it might go by smoothly, but 2 years later they still have a payment. They've been paying the minimum payment on the car, and then something goes out, there's mechanical problems, a car gets totaled, and you have a ton of depreciation after that. You can really get yourself into some trouble.
Yeah, so you really monitoring that depreciation schedule of the car is actually way more important than I even realized, and probably way more important than people think. Because my mind goes to, well, yeah, I mean, if you resell the car, it might matter, but if you're just going to run it to the ground, who cares? And you're like, well, if there's an accident, which you have dealt with an accident, then the value of the car matters when they're looking, all right, do we total it? Do we pay for this? Whatever it may be. And you might be underwater on that thing and you have to pay off all this debt. And it's like a whole thing. So you're really, really doing it right. And the people who were trying to do the new cars, the expensive cars, they did not do well. And the person that is doing the best, I think you said her name was Aubrey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she said get cheap cars, and you've been following that prescription. And it's been doing well for you.
Yeah, no,
Tried an
definitely.
expensive car, you know, and
Yeah, I've tried it,
didn't.
and with the new cars too, you can't get gap insurance for Turo. If you know what that is,
Yeah.
your loan's paid off. If you're negative equity, like they do not do gap for Turo cars. So like you could be absolutely screwed.
Even if you have your own car insurance policy, if someone crashes it while renting it, your car insurance policy doesn't cover it. The Turo insurance has to cover it, correct?
Yep.
And so Turo doesn't offer gap. So even if you have gap for you driving and then they total it and the amount that the car is theoretically worth is less than the loan that you owe, you're going to have to pay off the difference.
Yep.
Wow. All right. That's good to know. So buy cheap cars. Get a good deal on your car. You always
Yes,
make
that's
money on
another
the
thing.
car.
It's
Yeah.
almost like I still watch this YouTuber Meet Kevin, and he used to talk about real estate, and he's like, oh, there's like these wedge deals. You got to buy something for like less than it's worth, and then you do some work on it. You have equity in the property, and then you rent it out. It's almost like that with cars. You got to browse Facebook Marketplace. Always go for like the newest listed. Try to find like a good deal on a car that's like worth a little bit more, so that you have a cushion, that you have some like it's worth more than you paid for it at the beginning at least.
I think getting into the art of buying and selling cars is a business unto itself. So we can table that, even though I could talk about it for a while.
Oh yes.
So, how long should someone expect to be doing this before they actually make a profit? Let's just pretend that I have my car sitting in my driveway. It's like a decent car, relatively new. It's fine, you know? And I want to list on Turo. I'm sure a lot of people are doing this. How long does it take for me to get some business?
Oh, business? You'll probably get a booking right away, depending where you'll live, like pretty much instantly. Yeah, like I've had like it's crazy. Like cars, they really do have demand. Like people want to rent from you. When you first list a brand new car with 0 reviews and a brand new profile, just price it a little bit lower than your competition. Like, your first 10, 15 listings, you're going to be, pricing a little bit lower than the rest of the market. But eventually, as you have like, 10 5-star reviews, that's when you're rolling and you can charge more money. So that's just kind of the strat. When I have a new car, like the first week, I'll give it like a deal. Like my Passat, instead of, $45, $49 a day, I just made it 40 a day for like the first like few trips. And, you lose a little bit of money, but it helps like get reviews on the car.
This is a common strategy. When I was talking to a guy who does Amazon FBA, he would sell a product for a lot less profit in the beginning, harvest reviews just from getting people buying it. And then once he has more reviews in the competition, he would raise his rates. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really important that people need to realize how necessary social proof is in order to actually be able to book things out.
Yes, yes. Because for someone to give you a chance on like a 0 review brand new profile, they're gonna want a deal.
Yeah, for sure. So do you make profit right away, even when you're doing a discount, or does it take some time to build up to that?
Oh yeah. Realistically, so it really depends on the Turo car you buy. Like a new car or a more expensive car is gonna have a longer ROI. But like for example, if you buy, something for, $5,000, $8,000, ROI realistically is 9 months best case to like a year. That's kind of like the math I did on my Passat. I paid $5,500 for it. First month I think it made about like 650, and then the next month around like 600, after depreciation like 500. So, probably 9 months to a year is kind of your ROI on that.
This is a really interesting ROI calculation. It sounds like you're not valuing the asset in your ROI thesis.
Oh, yeah. I guess technically the car isn't worth zero, right? Um,
Right. So if the car's not worth zero,
Kinda how I
make
think of it.
even cash break
Yeah.
even in 9 months. But
Yeah.
profitability, as long as the day that you rent it out, you make
Yeah.
more than the expenses and depreciation, you've actually profited because
Yeah.
you resell the car and then reclaim the value of the vehicle.
So yeah, month two, I guess, would technically be like your profit because obviously month one you're paying for, the car, you're paying for the lockbox, a couple things for Turo. Like I usually put a scraper in the car so people can, at least where I live, it's cold, so people got to scrape the windshields, and then you got to pay taxes on it, sales tax, and after that month two, that's pretty much where you're starting to make your investment back.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Where do you live, by the way?
I live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Probably never been there, huh?
Oh, I haven't.
He's us no rain to come.
Another one of actually a really big influencer I'm in conversations with to actually buy his car is from Wisconsin.
Really? What
Yeah.
YouTuber do you know? Tristan Jazz? Or
You know.
I don't want to say.
Yeah, I'll tell you after when we're not recording.
Interesting.
Yeah. All right. So we just talked about how long it takes to start making money. All right. Is there an amount of money that someone needs to invest on a weekly basis in order to succeed, or is it just straight profit?
In terms of Turo, invest weekly?
Yeah. Like, do you need money in order to make money on this business?
Yeah, you need money to buy a car to rent out, but other than that, I mean, you're probably going to want like honestly 5 to 10,000 to start. That's a pretty good amount. 5 is maybe a little bit
You don't have a car, is that?
if you don't have a car. Yeah, you could rent out your own, but I mean, a lot of people are going to want to use their own car. But for me, I drive a 2007 Toyota Corolla with about 100,000 miles on it. So like it's like a cheap like beater car. I just drive like a shit box and then I rent out the nicer cars. That's kind of my strategy, because
Yeah, you're doing the Jeff Bezos, Warren Buffett method. They both drove beaters for a long, long time until they were very rich.
yes, yes.
So, for someone who has no experience, how beginner friendly is this? Could someone just pick this up, or do you need any specific skills in order to make this work?
It's pretty beginner friendly. Like I'm a perfect example. Like I had no mechanical knowledge. Obviously, I learned some lessons in the beginning for sure. But it helps a lot. Like if you have knowledge, it definitely will help you be way more profitable. Like knowing about, car repair, that is a huge plus. If you're somewhat handy, you can make crazy money. I don't know why mechanics don't do Turo. Like it just makes perfect sense. Like if you own a mechanic shop, why don't you have Turo cars? It seems like a perfect business for someone who, knows about cars, it actually wants to learn how to repair them themselves because you can make a lot of money doing that. If someone who's like a car buyer knows how to buy cars at a good discount, that's a great advantage. All good things to know, but you don't really need to like have that to start. It's just those are definitely helpful.
Okay, and what is the risk that someone loses money doing this?
Oh, it's possible. I mean, eh, if you do it wrong, you could lose money. I would say there's definitely a chance. Like let's say you pick the 90/20 plan where you have a $2,500 deductible and first trip on a car it gets totaled. Definitely a chance of that. Pretty low chance because I've had over 100 trips since I started Turo again in the last year, and I've had one damage claim, which was like a bumper being broken. So pretty rare, but could lose money if like the first trip out on a car it gets totaled. That's definitely a possibility. Or if you finance a car, there is definitely a chance you could lose money if it gets totaled in the first year, or if you, yeah, something like that. That's definitely a chance. But even if you, yeah, no, yeah, yeah, because of depreciation, you'd be down the first year on like a new car. But on a
Yeah.
used car, yeah, it'd be have to be pretty quick for it to be totaled. Like first couple trips, because after that you've made 750 and you've made enough to like cover the deductible. So like after you've made enough profit to cover like sales tax, some of the depreciation on the car and like paying for insurance and operating expenses, there's a chance of it, but pretty low risk.
So it's a pretty low risk endeavor overall, and the
Yeah.
biggest risk is if one of your customers totals the car.
Yeah, like on an initial trip, right? So like even if someone totaled like one of my cars that's been rented out for longer, it probably would still be like relatively profitable because I've had all that time that it was rented out making money. So
Yeah, so it's pretty low risk. Plus, you own the asset, so at the end of the day, you could resell the car and recover a decent amount of cash. Well, what is kind of the most common reason that people fail?
um I think just not buying the right cars. That's a common reason I think people fail. Like they instead of, maybe taking the time to buy stuff off Facebook, they're just going to a dealership, buying like 5 cars at MSRP, and then all at 0% down, like interest too. Like they're getting screwed. Like that's probably like and also another thing about Turo is you don't want to buy, like, if you're going to buy even a new car, you want to get like a base model, because people aren't really going to pay more money per day for like extras most of the time. Like some people, if you're getting like a top trim of a Nissan Altima, like that's like a dumb car to put on Turo, because you're paying so much extra for like all this stuff, and no one's really going to pay extra for that, like on a daily rate if they're renting it. So buying the wrong cars is like the biggest mistake I think people make.
Yeah, I think that's come up over and over again. Buying expensive cars, buying the wrong cars. I mean,
Now,
there's
there's other
much more.
things I'd have to think about, but another thing that could get you in trouble is not taking pre-trip photos. Like if you don't take photos of the car before the rental and then the guest messes something up, like you got to take like 100 pictures, like 60 to 100 pictures, just quickly inside and out all over. And like if they break something and you don't have photo evidence of it, you're kind of screwed. Same with like smoking claims. Obviously, that's not like the worst deal in the world, but if someone smokes in your car and you don't have like evidence of ash, then like you can't charge them, which is quite annoying. So you got to take good pictures. And you also have to get the post-trip photos within 24 hours of the trip ending. So if like the guest brings the car back and there's damage on it and you didn't check for like 30 hours, then you're kind of screwed if the guest doesn't admit to it, because you don't have like you could have happened like between the trip ending and all that. So yeah.
So if someone's getting started, what resources do you think they should look into? Anything or just kind of wing it?
YouTube is good. I bought a course for Turo for a couple $100. Like Aubrey had a course, I bought it. But it was like a few $100. You don't need to buy a course. There's a ton of information for free on the internet. Yeah, if you're gonna get any type of training, or if you're gonna get any resources, don't spend more than a few $100, like for sure. Like you don't really need anything too fancy. A ton of information is free on the internet. Like look up Turo for beginners, like best cars to buy for Turo. There's a ton of people who will like rank like, oh, here's this car on my fleet, showing you their numbers. Just do some research on YouTube, honestly. That's the best way.
So you bought a course and it was a couple $100. You didn't need it, but do you think
Yeah.
it was helpful?
I liked it because it gets into like each video as like a specific thing. Like, oh, here's how you handle like insurance. Here's what to do for like guest reimbursements for like tolls, like little like random things. It's kind of nice to see like how another host does it. It gives you like an insight on their business. And what I would honestly say is start with like free videos. And if you ever want to get like a course, wait until you're like making a little bit of money, so that you don't have to like really go out of pocket. Once you make a couple $100, maybe get a course if you want to. Don't spend like $1,000 on it. I definitely don't recommend it. Like I'll buy a course if it's like a few $100, but I don't like the whole like people who like try to sell you on like a $5,000 coaching package or whatever the heck. Like maybe that makes sense if you're like already killing it, but if you're like a beginner, I think it's dumb.
I don't know if I told you this, but the platform I'm building is actually a review platform for creators, coaching, paid communities, things like
Yeah.
that, because that doesn't exist anywhere. There's nowhere that's a trust pilot of
Good idea.
ways to make money online. So I'm building that. I'm building the social proof in for those people. And if someone's saying a $5,000 package, you can see, does this have 5 stars or does this have 1 star? What are people saying about it? What do the 5 star people say about it? What do the 1 star people say about it?
Yeah.
Just like we talked about how important social proof is. I'm building that trust and transparency in the make money online and the info space community.
Yeah, and I actually maybe I'll even say like it really depends on where you're at, because I've even paid one time. I bought a YouTube course for like $2,000, so I've actually spent money on like courses and stuff, and like that made sense to me because I was at a point where I was making like a few thousand a month off YouTube already. So for me, it was worth the investment, and it was like coaching with like a specific person. I knew what I wanted to get out of it, but I think people sometimes like sign up for coaching and they like are a complete beginner. They don't know what they want to get out of it. And realistically, I don't think you're going to get the full value out of something if you're like, you don't really know like what you want from it and you're like a complete beginner. But that's just my personal take.
I really like that approach, which is roll up your sleeves, try the thing, take advantage of free resources, and figure out where you still feel pain. so that you can zoom in with an expert on that one or two very small but very painful points and then solve those problems. I like that a lot.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Okay. In terms of fit, who would you say that renting cars on Turo is for?
For someone who maybe so what I would say is for the person who wants a business where they can just travel wherever, probably not the best. Like I definitely, I'll travel, but like it's like once every month, once every 2 months for, 3, 5 days. I'm not gone that frequently. And I think for the people who are, not going to be gone out of their house like a ton, it's a good business. That's one thing I'll say. Like it's probably the best fit for someone like that. And also people who are somewhat like mechanically inclined, definitely not a necessity. Like I don't really know anything about fixing cars, but I'm willing to learn at least and like, willing to like take on new knowledge. Like if you have no interest at all, probably not the best business for you. Like at least be like somewhat willing to learn and like, research on that. You don't even need to fix them yourself, but have some knowledge at least so you're not getting like screwed. Um and it's also a good business for like, you know, people who, yeah, probably those two people are the best. And also like someone who's willing to like go out there and look for deals in terms of like buying cars, like someone who has knowledge of that as well.
So if you like being home and you like cars, those are
Yes.
few things that are important. Who's it not for?
People who, like opposite of that, I guess someone who's traveling a ton. um, Let me think. I'm trying to give you like a good answer here, but it's probably, yeah, someone who, people who don't like, I don't know. Detail oriented also helps. If you're in Turo, you want to be detail oriented. Like I notice little things. You can't claim any type of damage on a Turo car. But like even if someone like puts a little scratch on the rim, like I like notice that. Like it's just like you gotta like really like like be willing to like look underneath the car after the trip, make sure there's no damage at all. Don't someone who maybe isn't like just willing to like brush over detail, right? You gotta like be able to be a little bit detail oriented, and that kind of goes with like a lot of different businesses. Like even if you're outsourcing to someone, like you got to make sure that they're like looking at specific things, like they know what they're supposed to be doing, like give them a checklist of what to do. And yeah, that's a big thing with Turo, because I've even had it myself one time where a guest broke a mirror on a car, like the back part of the mirror, and I didn't notice it, and I couldn't file like a claim.
Yeah, detail orientation is important for just about any business. So I
Yes.
totally agree with you there. And I think also people who really care about kind of in the most literal and figurative sense of the word, shiny objects. So the people who want to buy those like really nice cars and be like, I own
Yeah.
nice cars, you have to be willing to buy the things that make business sense and do the things that make business sense, even if it's not sexy, so that you can make enough money to go live your own sexy lifestyle, whatever that may be.
Yeah, another thing, I actually have a story of someone like this. Like they bought a Ferrari and then they co-hosted it to another host who like was gonna rent it out on Turo, and Turo only covers up to like 200,000 in damages, like on a rental. Like you can't rent a car out worth more than that. And the Ferrari was totaled or something. I think it was totaled or like badly crashed. And the dude bought it for like way over what it like. He bought it at like a markup too. Like he really wanted a Ferrari, and like he bought it like for like like it was ended up being like he lost like 100,000 plus on that for everything.
Yeah, this is where ego will make you make stupid decisions and cost you real money. I hope he learned a $100,000 lesson from that
Yeah.
incident.
The weird thing I don't get about it too is he had the Ferrari with a co-host. So like I don't really know, because like was he even really able to drive it? Maybe he lived close by where he would like drive the Ferrari sometimes, but like the car wasn't even like seen by him much. I don't know why he even like
It doesn't need to be seen by you. You just have to tell people that you own a Ferrari and then show them a picture and maybe post one or two pictures. You have the social proof. You are now a Ferrari owner and you can't really afford it. So you're like, hopefully it makes some money. I've explored this path where I was looking at, buying I was like, what's like the cheapest nice car that I could get and then rent out on Turo to make it so not so expensive. And I was looking at kind of the Corvette because it's the US version. It's the cheapest version, but it got similar prices. And in the end, I was like, it's probably more work and effort than it's worth for
Yeah.
margins on something like that. And I didn't go through with it.
And the thing about that too is if you're like buying a car, it's like, oh, I really want this car, but I'm going to subsidize like the payment even by like renting it on Turo. You're going to be pissed if someone like does something to it. Cause like there's going to be little things that you can't even claim. And it's just going to make you mad. Like someone's going to return the car. It's like there's going to be things. And if it's like a car that has any emotional meaning to you, it's just going to make the experience a lot worse. That might not be for everyone, but it tends to be the case. Like I really one day want to buy like a Tesla. Like I think they're kind of sick. Like they're kind of dumb, but like they're like little go-kart cars. I think they're cool. And I was like, oh, if I bought a Tesla to rent on Turo, I feel like it would be cool, but maybe good for content, but I don't think it would be as profitable as other cars. Like so many people have done that.
Yeah, I wonder because I think Uber started building a fleet of Teslas, and apparently it's because they're a good car for something like that. So I wonder, like, the profitability of a Tesla versus a
Yeah. Hertz did it
Bugatti.
too, and then they sold all their EVs. So
Interesting. So maybe they experimented and it didn't work
the
out.
thing about them too is they're private, so they charge more. They get all the profit too. There's a lot more margin there.
Who got rid of them? Interesting. I wonder what happened there. Might be worth thinking it for you, not for me. So, is there anything that we haven't covered that you think is important for someone considering getting into this?
No, I think that's it. Just just do some research on YouTube, start browsing Facebook Marketplace, look at cars recently listed, and make some offers, buy a car, make sure it's good for Turo. Just check the KVB, make sure it's a clean title, and check the VIN. And yeah, you can literally list the car as you're about to buy it. That's what I do when I'm like about to buy a car. I like literally at the meetup, I'm like listing it on Turo to make sure it's all good. And then once it's listed, I'm like, okay, I'll buy it. That's the tip.
That's great. That's great advice. And is there anything you want to plug or promote? Where can people find you?
You can check me out on YouTube, Financial Wolf. I post a video almost every single week, trying to post once a week, and you can check me out there.
All right, great. And would you be willing to make a Moonlight account?
Let's do it. Yes,
Moonlight
absolutely.
account? All right,
Yes.
great. I'd love to have you on there. Thank you so much.
Great.
All right, well, this is the Financial Wolf. I'm sorry. This is the Financial Wolf talking about Turo. And it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.